We had a Thursday night matchup, the Eagles and the Texans. A game that was very much okay. Like we all kind of knew how that game was going to go, and it did result in the Eagles winning that game.
I mean, so it didn't go exactly how we thought it was. We thought it was going to be a thumping, and the Eagles actually struggled against the Texans for about 3/4 of that game.
That's a stretch. It was what, tied at halftime?
It was tied.
Eagles had a lead by a 3-point lead.
It was tied at halftime, and then about after the third quarter, I believe it was 21-17.
They won by 2 scores, which if you just look at that, that's enough. So I don't want to get too critical of them. I know you and I are going to be yelling at each other very soon about that. We have the Miami Dolphins preview for Jalen Phillips' counterpart on the other sideline, Bradley Chubb's first game as a Dolphin. So very excited to see that. Got some little fantasy football, got a little bit of spicy takes. A little bit of a shorter show today. I got places to be, people to talk to. So that should be fun. But yeah, first things first. So yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Houston Texans 29-17. Jalen Hurts 21-27, 243, 2 touchdowns. It says here he doesn't have an interception. I thought he fumbled the ball. He fumbled
the ball. His first fumble all year.
Yeah.
He should have had an interception as well when he overthrew A.J. Brown and it fell into the
But he did a good part of smacking the hand of the defender. Eagles ground game, Miles Sanders 17 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had a fantastic game.
Thank God. I had
8 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. You're welcome. For the Dynasty League, that being. Yeah. Davis Mills, 13 of 22. Jeez, he's not a good quarterback. You last night were trying to tell me he is. He's not a franchise quarterback at all. He's not.
He showed there at the end. So in the very beginning of the game, the first half of the game, the man looked like he was just dicing up that defense.
That's not true.
No, he was throwing dots, bro. He had that one bad interception where he tried to do too much. And
Pretty bad.
He stepped up in the pocket and kind of just flipped it with his wrist.
Pretty bad.
That was a pretty bad interception. Now, it didn't even lead to them.
It doesn't matter.
Actually, it did lead to them getting behind.
Davis Mills is not a franchise quarterback. It's not the premise of the video we got going on right now, but Davis Mills, before we even get into the argument that I know is going to ensue, Davis Mills is not a franchise quarterback. Not even close to a franchise quarterback.
I say he's still in the same category as Daniel Jones. Now,
he is not a franchise quarterback, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody knows Jacob's opinion. All you Giants fans know Jacob's opinion. Now, I don't necessarily disagree that he's not going to be there for a long time, just because I feel like if you have a mid quarterback and a good rest of the team, then it's the quarterback that's holding you back. But they have so many other holes to fill also.
Yeah, but Daniel Jones also stinks. He doesn't stink, but he's not going to be the guy to take the Giants forward. But the guy for the Philadelphia Eagles who is most certainly taking them forward
I love Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. So fun to watch. He's become so efficient. He's great in the pocket. He can roll out and do anything he wants. Really, a passer rating yesterday of 129. He's doing everything you want.
I would just like to say, at the beginning of the draft when Jalen Hurts and Tua were coming out, I'm not sure if you recall, I told you I think I want Jalen Hurts over Tua. Now,
honestly, I still might take it.
They're
very different ends of the quarterback spectrum.
Yeah, so you have one that's more mobile and
I would take Jalen Hurts
physical,
over Tua.
And then you have one that's kind of just he gets the ball so quick and accurate, and the anticipation, well, we can talk about that later in the Dolphins preview, but I'll talk about his anticipation there. But still, I was super high on Jalen Hurts from the get-go. And
I wasn't.
He's just, I know you were.
I wasn't. I have Alicia, who I've done games with. She is so big into Jalen Hurts, and I've been kind of clowning her for up to this year, saying Jalen Hurts is never going to be that guy. And clearly he is. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are looking at an 8-0 start of their season, a incredibly winnable schedule for the rest of their season. We already brought up the Miami Dolphins, so here we go. Here comes the scream match. I, as a Miami Dolphins fan, I do not care about the 1972 Miami Dolphins. I do not care. I want to say, every time you've tried to fight me on this show, I've ended up being right. So choose your words wisely. I do not care about the 1972 Miami Dolphins. My dad was all of 4 years old, 5 years old. I don't remember my dad. 67. So my dad was 4 or 5 years old. Your dad was 4 or 5 years old. My uncle was 17. So he actually got to appreciate it, right? Most of the people in our lives didn't watch it or weren't old enough to appreciate it. A lot of the guys on the team, I'm sorry, are dead. They're not even here anymore. It's so far in the past. I want to see the Eagles do it. If it's not the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl or the Ravens winning the Super Bowl, I want the Eagles to run the table, go undefeated, and I want them to break the record and go undefeated. Now, obviously, when the Patriots did their run, that would have been painful. That would have sucked. I would hate to see the Patriots do it. I would hate to see the Steelers do it. I would hate to see Cowboys do it. I would hate to see those teams do it. But the Eagles, I love their offense. Top 5 rushing attack in the league. Jalen Hurts is MVP favorite so far. Top 5 defense in the league in so many statistical categories. I am begging, if it's not the Dolphins, if it's not the Ravens, I pray the Eagles go undefeated and win the Super Bowl.
He's a fake Dolphins fan.
Oh, I am not. I am very much a diehard Dolphins fan. I love the Dolphins. I love the 2022 Miami Dolphins. I could not care less about the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
You literally just want the Eagles to win so people can stop talking about how the Dolphins were the only perfect team in history.
That's part of it. Yeah, that's actually a big part of it. Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Because I don't care.
I don't care that you don't care. The Dolphins being the only perfect team in NFL history, the winningest coach, they did it with a backup quarterback for 90% of the season.
Don't care.
With no name. They literally have the nickname no name defense. They had no stars on that defense.
I'm not saying it wasn't impressive. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that I don't care. It's not that it wasn't impressive. Something can be impressive if the number 1 cricket player in the world, he's in Boca. That's cool. I don't care. I don't care about cricket. The 1972 Dolphins. Couldn't name you a single player on their defense, probably. Obviously, you had Zonka. You had
Gregory Morris.
Yeah. Who was at the game for the Dolphins Steelers game? Hyped up the crowd. Love to see him there. But I don't care. I like seeing the players what they're doing now, and it's cool that it happened. We have it in the stadium, 1972 perfect season. But I don't care. I'm sorry, and I know there's a lot of Dolphins fans that share this sentiment. I've seen a lot of Dolphins fans say that it doesn't matter. It was in the past, especially. And honestly, it's mostly the younger generation. It's mostly the kids like us who didn't experience it in the first place, who are now taking over as Dolphins fans. They are the Dolphins fans of the future. They have no connection to what happened generations ago.
So let's make that connection happen then.
Why? What, we're going to watch them play football now?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what I've said pretty much all of this year, which is I think that the Eagles, if they can go on 17-0 and make it to the Super Bowl, if they can play the Dolphins, and the Dolphins in the 50th
now that'd be awesome.
The 50th anniversary. Now see, I wouldn't care as much if the Eagles did it like next year or last year, but it being at the 50th anniversary.
I think that makes it cool.
No, yes. I think it makes it cooler if the Dolphins knock them off in the Super Bowl. Because if you think about it, remember in '85, the Chicago Bears' only loss was to the Dolphins on prime time Monday night. That was insane. Now, once again, going back forward 50 years, for the Dolphins to be able to defend in the Super Bowl,
that is different.
The Eagles.
That's why I led this conversation off by saying, if it's not the Dolphins, who are my favorite team in the world, easily, any sports team in the world, Miami Dolphins, number 1. I love the Ravens, too. Second favorite football team. Not sure where they rank up in my favorite teams in general, but second favorite football team. If it's not the Dolphins, if it's not the Ravens, I want it to be Eagles. Now, if it's the Dolphins and Eagles in the Super Bowl, I am going to completely turn face. All right, I'm going to tell you right now. I will be like, who said that? What?
Who? What?
Me? Eagles hoping to go undefeated?
But after the Bradley Chubb trade. Now I may have been jumping the gun. I was already looking at plane tickets to Arizona.
Yeah, that is very much jumping the gun, and that's something we'll get into. I'm kind of pulling back my excitement for Bradley Chubb if you really think about what he's done since his rookie year.
But if you think about what he's done just this year, he's leading the league in sacks. He's top 3. He's leading the league in sacks, and he's top 3 in pressure rates so far this year. Now
nobody has more than 5 sacks.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's really bad. Dang.
This is a weird season.
It is.
But, I mean, given they had, what was his name from the Eagles, just had 3 sacks himself yesterday. Yeah. So, given it was his first 3 sacks of the year. So, but then you have Jalen Phillips on the other side who has 3.5 sacks, who's 9th in pressure rate. Yeah. And so, I mean, you have those two combined with Ogba being fresh and getting in there. You have Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis.
If all this comes to be and the Dolphins end up making the Super Bowl because of Bradley Chubb or whatever the reason is, I will completely condemn today's self and say he was an idiot. What was he thinking? But as things stand, if it's not of those two teams, not even as things stands, going forward, I'm not going to change my tone. I want it to happen. I want it to be a team that I
don't want it to happen on the 50th anniversary.
That makes me want it even more. I think that'd be so special. Look, like 100 years from now, we'll be dead because there's no shot I'm living to 100. All right, I hope not at least. God forbid. Please, I don't want to live to 100. Like, let's say 100 years from now, they're looking back at the history and they see, oh, there's 2 undefeated teams in NFL history. And guess what? It happened 50 years, probably not to the day, but basically to the day that it happened. I think that'd be fantastic in terms of looking back at history. Today, in the moment, as a Dolphins fan, you're selfishly hoping it doesn't happen. I'm looking at it as an NFL fan. I'm looking as I enjoy the sport of football. I think that'd be such a great story, and especially with the group of guys who's doing it. Nick Sirianni looks like a fool in his opening press conference, was bumbling, stumbling himself through that press conference, and everybody wrote him off immediately. Jalen Hurts had the worst accuracy in the league last year, was horrible at anticipation and everything. All he knew was to roll out of the pockets. All he knew, even though he had the best offensive line football in front of him. You have a misfit quarterback, a misfit head coach. Both have been written off multiple times up to this point this year, and they're undefeated. Their defense, they went out and added Darius Slay a couple seasons ago. Last year, it was like, was that really a good idea to go ahead and do so? They've had multiple busts in the draft. You saw a guy at the game yesterday holding up a sign saying, "I forgive you, Roseman," because he had some terrible drafts in terms of trying to go get wide receivers, but he's made it up, and now this team is what it is. Howie Roseman's been written off, and he's probably the best GM in all of football. So you have a conglomerate of guys that weren't good enough, that have been written off. Originally, Hurst was the number 2. He literally had the number 2 jersey because he was the backup quarterback to Carson Wentz. You have all these guys who nobody was ever fighting for being the best of prior to this, maybe out of Jason Kelsey, is really the only player on their team that you might say is the best at his Lane Johnson, so their offensive line. Everybody else, though, A.J. Brown was just traded away because the Titans decided he wasn't good enough to give an extension to. They decided to go and get a rookie who's barely even played for him instead of paying him, okay? There's so much with this team. Devonta Smith, he's too small. He's too skinny.
He's too small. He's too skinny. He was the 3rd or 4th wide receiver taken out of his draft, and after he just won the Heisman.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that was the right pick based off what we've seen from Chase and Waddle so far.
Yeah.
But he was the 4th pass catcher because of Kyle Pitts going, even before those two. So there's so many underdogs with this team. It's the city of Philadelphia. You know, you love them or you hate them. For most of my sports fan career, I've hated them. But now I'm like, this is a fun city. I mean, I still hate the Fly Eagles Fly song. Like, that makes me want to stomp a baby. But, like, I'm rooting for them right now. I love watching them. I hope that the Phillies come back and destroy the Astros in the next 2 games. Probably not going to happen, but we can still hope.
It's literally the country versus the Astros.
It really much is. And I am with the Eagles with this. I'm riding. Eagles country, let's ride. Let's fly. I hope they win the Super Bowl. I hope they go undefeated. I hope they break the record of the 1972 Miami Dolphins.